There you go, guys. Right. Yesterday I did a couple of videos that I've put up on YouTube now, and I hadn't put any primer back on these back guards or the bootlet or anything. So now, well, sort of the latest yesterday, I probably got about 5 real good heavy coats over the bulk of it, and in the areas that I've done quite a bit of repair on, I've flicked back over again just with what was left in the paint, and it's probably got probably in some places probably 6, maybe 7 coats, especially like where this was quite heavy, dented and damaged through here. I've got quite a lot on here. If I hold this up here, like it's got a bit of sheen on it. Not sure how much you're going to see. You can still see it's a little bit wavy, but the basic shape of that bootled's right. So hopefully now there's that much paint on there. It's going to be pretty thick. So by the time I block it back, that's all going to smooth right out. But I won't do that for quite a while now. Like, I'll let this really harden up, and any shrinkage get out of it. Probably for the next couple of 3 weeks. I might even leave it longer, just to let it really, really sort of firm up and all the evaporation go out of it, and let the paint shrink as much as it's possibly going to shrink. Because what I don't want is to sand it back and think it looks good, and then it keeps shrinking some more, and then all of a sudden, you end up with a little, especially where you're repaired, you end up with little divots and stuff like that, or little dips in it. So I'll let these back guards and this bootlet go off, for probably even a month or maybe even a wee bit longer. So now I've just started, yesterday I haven't done any sanding work or anything like this. We gave the bonnet a good scuff back, just with nothing on it, just gave it a good rub back to find the worst, the highs and lows, to make them show up again, like little spots like this where it's a wee bit high. This line here is here because you're trying to sand up against that the line in the centre of the bonnet. But this was quite damaged here. This is where it was. The bonnet's been sort of tweaked and bent, and I've straightened it out, so it's reasonably flat. But there was quite a bit of damage through here. It's really bent up, and and I've had to rebend the skin back underneath, so it was quite wavy through here. So I put a good coat of filler through there, a little bit here because there was quite a dip in the panel. Not huge, but there's where something's been bounced on it or something like that. There was a dent in there. The rest of it feels actually quite flat and quite reasonable. And here it's like it's never really been damaged or hit or anything on this side, apart from that back corner where it's been popped up and it's sprung. But like I've had it sitting against the guards and everything. It's sitting a bit high there because I've got bonnet springs in it now and I didn't have for a start off. Sitting high at the back, so I've got to readjust that. But I've put quite a bit of body filler here in the front, and to be honest, it probably needs a bit more in here because it's sunken in. But once I've given this a sand back, I'll get my front trim piece stick and put it across the front of the bonnet and just see how much more filler it does need in there so that sits nice. So I'm not going to have to get real super picky and perfect in here. As long as it's really good, and when they put that chrome, it's not really chrome, it's the trim piece across the front, as long as that's sitting nice and flat against it and all those sorts of things, and there was a couple of hollows in here, but generally the rest of it's, like apart from the odd high spot, which aren't really that bad, like you can't really feel them with the hand, apart from a couple minor little spots, the rest of it actually feels pretty flat by hand. And that's the big thing, it's to get that feel, to feel where those humps and hollows are, the majority, and give it a light block back so you can see where the worst of it is. Like, it's nowhere near the big patches we're coming up like was on the bootleg, with all the bracing underneath. That was what the worst of the damage was on that. You know, it's where it had been slammed closed and it had been pushed down over top of the bracing. So like in between the bracing was low and the bracing had held up. That's why there was so much filler in some spots in that. Like it wasn't thick, but it was to bring those lower pieces back up in between the bracing to get that boot lid flat again, you know. So you're not looking across and it's, you know, you can see all the bracing underneath once it was painted. That's probably, you know, the worst of it. You know, like, so if you have like underneath here, I'll just lift this up. So all these pieces here were low. A lot of that was low where the bracing wasn't, and where the, so obviously over the years where it's been slammed closed, you know, just 50 years old next year, this thing. Well, it's probably 50 years old now because we're getting near the end of the year. I think this was just probably assembled in 66. Right, so yeah, what I'm saying is like this was, you know, this is basically 50 years old, either this year or next year. So over time, you know, across that bracing, you know, it's had things sat on it and it was all low in there. So that's why it sort of took so much filler in there, and like there was a lot of bare metal sort of spots, you know, as I was sanding and trying to get it flat. So now with hopefully, you know, 4, 5, 6 coats of that real good thick high build primer on it, and let it shrink down over the next few weeks, and then I'll mist coat it with a guide coat. Yeah, so hopefully now with these 5 or 6 coats on here and a good block back, you know, put a guide coat over it and then start blocking it back. And I'll start with probably 240 or something like that, and then once I'm sort of happy with that, I'll guide coat it again, as long as I haven't gone through the steel anywhere. And then we'll go to probably 320, and we'll eventually work up to probably 400 or 500. Just we'll see how things look. But that's the whole idea, you know, just block it back and block it back, and you know, guide coat it each time. And say you're finding any little low spots, still, you know, the more guide coats you do, and then go through the grades of paper, the flatter it gets. So that's sort of where we're up to. So these back guards and everything I'll leave for, you know, as I said, for a month or so, and we'll start working on these front guards and the bonnet. There's not a lot of repair to do on the roof. There's a little spot on the other side which I'll put a little bit of filler in, and that'll probably get the same treatment as the boot lid. I'll give it a block back just to make sure there is nothing, anything else that it's hidden, that I sort of can't see or feel. And then I'll do the same. I'll give it 5 or 6 good coats, and that'll sort that out. And then we'll move into these doors, and then in around the door jams and under the bonnet, and possibly just a little bit in and around the boot jams and stuff like that. I've given it a good coat, extra few coats in there, so hopefully it'll be just a block back and things like that, and around there too, you know, just by hand. So I put a little bit of filler on tops of this guard, just what I had left over. So like that's, you know, still got to be all done yet, but we're getting there. So I'll sand this filler back on the bonnet, and we'll give you a shot and just see where I've missed, and we'll have a look and see how we're getting on. Alrighty. There you go, guys. Another update this weekend. Fortunately, it's a long weekend, so I've got quite a bit done. I've blocked this bonnet back. Obviously, you know, there's quite a few spots where I've got to put a bit more filler in. I test fitted the this piece here. Excuse me for a second. I test fitted this piece here that goes across the front of the edge of the bonnet. I'll just sit that in there so I can show you. So as you can see, it needs a little bit more filler just across that front edge where it's been repaired and where that was punched back way back. And I've straightened that out, you know, quite reasonable, but it needs, you know, probably another a mil or two just to bring it back out to sort of level with the rest of it. So that's not too bad, but you know, a little bit more filler on there and that'll be good. You know, and still at the end of the day, it's not going to be super thick, but it's it's going to bring it back out to the right shape. So that's sort of what I've been doing there. So that's sort of that main piece of that side. Now a couple more spots here need a wee bit more. Again, it's just still a little bit low. It's not too bad through here. Need a little bit more in here. It's just a little bit low still. It's not bad, but it's just a touch. But through here, where this was quite badly sort of damaged from being flung up at some stage, and it's sprung, I've got reasonable shape in it at a general, but obviously, you know, still quite a lot of filler to go in here. This edge is a little up and down. And I've tried to sort of flatten it out as best I can. So I'll put a bit, you can see where I've just been giving it a tap with the end of the hammer. Try and flatten that out, so I'll put a little bit more filler through there, and hopefully that'll flatten that out reasonably well. So not far away there, and I've sanded this out because it needs a bit more filler in it, where I had to grind the lead out to get this front panel out, so it needs a bit more filler in there just to bring that back right again. You know, a couple of little bits and pieces that I stuck on the guards was just what was sort of left over from when I done the initial bonnet, and you know, I thought there might have been enough in there. So like I've sanded that back too, but like that's still, you know, sort of, well, it's not miles away, but you know what I mean, like it needs quite a bit more sort of work on that. But I'm just trying to get this bonnet right. So we're getting close. This is reasonably flat through here. I did give it a bit of a quick rub, but like it's generally pretty good. So we're not far away. A little bit of filler in this corner of this guardwood. Obviously, it's been damaged when this was all creased in. I don't know if you can remember, if you've looked back through my earlier videos. I think I ground a whole heap of filler out of here originally because it was quite caved in. And I spent probably the best part of 5 or 6 hours just slowly working on that, and I got that back out. Like there was probably half an inch of filler in there or more when I initially ground it out, and I've got it back to, it'll be just a, you know, the worst spots will be a couple of mil at tops, you know. The rest of it will be just a real light skim, because, you know, it's still a little bit humpy and holly, but like it's almost back out to sort of, you know, the right basic shape. It's just where it's been creased and all those sorts of things. And there was a little bit of damage in this nose piece where it was flattened off, so I put a bit of filler in that, and I've sort of semi-shaped it. It just needs a little bit in there just to tidy that up. And then I've still got to, you know, work on that bottom corner. Like I haven't put any more filler in that at all. I need to have a good feel and just see where it's low and run a block across it and just, again, check, you know, to find where the highs and lows are initially, and then start putting some, you know, some filler in if it needs it further back. So we're getting there. On the same with this corner too, you know, where they had to cut that lead out, and it needs quite a bit more in here yet. But again, we're getting there. So that's just the initial fill, just to start getting the shape. You know, it's not as though you can put it in there quite thick. Like that's going to be quite thick in there, but it's not much really you can do about it. Like I don't know how to do that leading. I've never done that before. So like if I'd put lead back in there, you know, like it was going to be thick anyway. So it's going to be a little bit thick in there, but like it's not going to matter because it's only just in that one little spot where it was thick with lead. So, but we're getting there. So I'll mix up a bit more filler and spread her out, and hopefully the bonnet won't be far away once I block it back and it's gone off. Cheers.